Hey everyone, and welcome back to 190 Ethan. I'm Ethan, and today we're taking a deep dive into my Yukon Denali Duramax. I'm calling this series Lived In because that's exactly what this Yukon is. It's lived in by myself, my wife, and my two daughters, both under the age of 4. So let's take a closer look at the Yukon, look at some of its features, look at some of the utility, and if you're looking to buy a Yukon, hopefully you can get a better picture of what living in one actually looks like. Let's take a look. First up, we're going to take a look in the engine bay and look at that Baby Max, the little baby Duramax, 3-liter Duramax. So far, this Yukon has about 40,000 miles on it. I've had it for about 25 of those 40,000 miles, and I have not had any issues with this engine whatsoever. It runs good, starts every time, does not give any problems, is really super torquey, and has been a good engine overall. You find these engines a lot in the GMC Sierra, but rarely will you ever see them in a Yukon. So if you do see them in a Yukon, consider yourself lucky. One interesting thing to note in here is this giant battery that the Yukon uses. So most modern cars now have so many bells and whistles. They have to have these huge batteries. Also, to start this diesel engine, you need a little bit more power. This has a nice little terminal there if you ever need to jump it to get to the positive, because it's kind of in this big battery box here. So that's really nice to have if you need it. Another thing to note in here is you can see all this silver space tape that they put on all these lines for heat protection, because that little snail looking thing back there is the turbo for this diesel engine, and the inlet is right there, which is very hot exhaust gas. Big old tube there going into the turbo back into the engine, and really does a good job at feeding this engine with lots and lots of torque. On that note, though, I will say, if the EPA did not exist and I could delete all of the emissions off of this engine, this thing would be a beast. The Yukon is a very boxy SUV compared to some of the other SUVs on the market. You can see it has that really straightforward front grille that really just makes like a wall and doesn't really make for good aerodynamics, but it does look good. It has all LED lights. It also has LED fog lights. My Yukon here has the 22-inch rims, which are just dwarfed by the size of this thing. I really think all the Yukons need bigger rim and tire packages to really fit the giant bodies, but overall it's a good look. This is also the factory tint on my vehicle. It's 35 on the front two windows and then 20 in the back. It looks a lot darker than it actually is here. You can tell that this is a Duramax Yukon by the little icon here on the side that says Duramax 3.0 liter. Most of them will have, it'll say 6.2 liter V8, or it'll just say GMC. If it just says GMC, it's likely a 5.3 liter V8. This one is pearl white and has all of the chrome accents that you get with the Denali trim. We'll walk around to the back here. You see the Denali badge there. Some of them have the blacked out emblems, GMC emblems. Mine just have the regular red ones. All LED taillights as well. So overall, very handsome looking vehicle. It's a little boxier than something like an Expedition would be, but overall, it's a very good look in my opinion. Let's take a look at the inside. We'll first get in the driver's seat here. You see that there's a little button right here that you can push with the key in your pocket to lock or unlock the vehicle. Very helpful. It does not have the capacitive touch. When you just grab it, it'll open, but honestly, the button works just fine. When you do open the door, the automatic running boards come down. Those are very handy, as it is a little bit taller, especially for short people to jump in and out of this thing. And you can see the interior of my Yukon is that light tan with the kind of darker brown piping on the seats. This was the spec that my wife wanted, white with the tan seats. I wanted black with the tan seats, and well, you see where we went. Starting off with the door panel, first to point out that Bose sound system. I did not count the speakers in here, but let's just say there are many and they sound amazing. I had a Bose system in my old GMC Sierra and it sounded great. This one's even better since it has a big subwoofer in the back and even more speakers. On the door panel here, you can see just basic mirror controls, window controls. I will say for a premium luxury, this only has automatic up and down for the front two windows, not even automatic down for the back two. My 2019 Camry has automatic up and down on all the windows. So GMC is really kind of missing at that point. Moving on to the interior here, you have this big switch panel of buttons off to the left of the steering wheel. This is going to control things like your lane keep assist, your parking assist, your automatic start and stop. This button here is for the power outlet in the back. You can turn on and off. These will show your 360 cameras, hill descent control and traction control, your four-wheel drive system, which includes an auto, which is pretty nice if you're driving in unsure conditions. You also have all of your light controls. This will change the brightness of your gauges. Mine has the trailer towing package, so it includes the trailer brake controller. And then this controls your heads up display, which I will show you just in a second. So let's get in here and start her up. The Duramax has a very unique kind of startup sound. Anytime I hear one, I know that it's a Duramax starting up. Okay, so we'll have lots of dings and dongs, as all cars like to do. So now you're looking at the digital gauge cluster in the steering wheel. We'll start here with the steering wheel, which uniquely does not say GMC. It says Denali on all of the Denali trims. It has a button to control your voice control or voice assistant. If you're hooked into Apple CarPlay and you hold this down, it will activate Siri, which I use all the time while driving. It works really well. This is your hang up or also mute button. This will control the little screen in the middle of your gauge cluster, which has all sorts of information, fuel mileage. You can look at your phone. There's a bunch of display settings. There's also, car info, and you can also see your radio stuff. Now, the display that I have here has all of the gauges that you can have. So it actually has speedo and the fuel economy shown there. This is your odometer. It has your water temperature, fuel range, battery voltage, oil temperature. This is your trans temperature, and then it also has a tachometer. The little road there shows you that it's in normal mode, two-wheel drive. This little white icon up here is actually like a speed sign reader, but you do have to pay a monthly fee in order to get the speed sign reader to work, which I don't really understand. And then this up here will show all your cruise control information. You also have a digital readout of your speed right there. And then if you back up and look from my perspective, out the window here, you can see the heads up display. So right now I have it displaying the cruise control kind of distance, also the speed and that little speed sign. You can actually move it up or down using the controls over to the left of the steering wheel that I showed you earlier. You can change the information that's on there, so you can have like a compass or your off-road details or just kind of a more simple design. You can also change the brightness of it too with those controls over there. So your turn signal stock and windshield wipers are all off to the left here. Pretty simple, pretty easy to use, exactly where you would expect it. One thing you could not see is on the back of the steering wheel, there's actually 4 buttons, 2 on either side. 2 of them control the volume and 2 of them control like the track to go to the next or the previous song. Believe it or not, these buttons are actually very helpful. I prefer these over those trick paddle shifters that really are just kind of to pretend in other luxury cars. These are much more useful buttons, and they're right where your fingers are all the time. So moving over to the center stack here, I love this infotainment system and how it's set up. If you look at other model Yukons from this generation, you'll see that the screen is actually kind of like pops up out of the dash up here in like a little tablet form instead of where it's integrated here. This is the main reason I got the Denali, because I like the way that the screen is integrated into the dash. It just looks a lot better, and a lot of the newer ones only have these screens. But if you were to get like an SLT or something of a 22 model, it would have that screen up here, which I just don't think looks quite as good. That being said, there's lots of stuff in the screen. A few notable things are your cameras. So this is your 360 camera, and it has all sorts of views. You can see out the sides, out the front. One useful view that I use all the time is the top-down view of the trailer hitch. So if you have a trailer hitch, this is looking down at your back bumper. It's really easy to line up. Another nice thing about that is if you are lining this up, it knows that you're lining up a trailer when you use this view. And then when you put it in park, it will automatically apply the parking brake. So when you let off the brake, you don't get that 1 to 2 inches of roll as it sets into the transmission. So it's actually really useful, and it's only takes one time to load up the trailer, which is really nice. It also has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is really all you need in an infotainment system. I can't show you right now because I'm using my phone to record, but it would usually show up right here, and you would have all of those displays, which is really all you need, in my opinion. You don't need all this other fancy stuff. Like, you do everything from your phone anyways. Another interesting thing here is this little trailer icon. So this, you can actually save your trailers. So if you're pulling things, it will show you your total mileage pulling that trailer and your average fuel economy. You can also put in maintenance reminders if you need to grease your hubs or something like that, checklists for when you set up. You can also hook up trailer cameras. So this system is really interesting. Really, the only stuff that I use on it is that mileage, and the fuel economy is really interesting to see. My Duramax actually gets better fuel economy pulling my boat than the 6.2 liter does pulling nothing at all. So that's interesting. The lights function is really nice. So when you hook up a trailer, it will actually, you can actually run a light diagnostic where it will do all of the turn signals, the brake lights in sequence. So you could just go stand at the back of the trailer. No one has to be sitting in here hitting all the buttons, and you can see them sequence through to make sure that all of your trailer lights are working. So really simple but easy to use, which I like, infotainment system. And the nice thing is, all of the stuff that you really need while you're driving is accessible through the voice control or those buttons on the back. So you don't have to be reaching over and kind of taking your eyes off the road to look over here. Now, the other nice thing is, moving down from the screen, you get your volume control knob and your track control knob, a couple of other quick buttons here like home and back. Honestly, the real one I only use over here is the volume control, but you can still do that on your steering wheel, but I do sometimes reach down and use that. And then all of the climate controls are controlled with these buttons here, which is very nice. You can see your heated seat. You can heat just the top or the top and the bottom, and it's very simple. Click it, that's level 3, and skip down through the levels. You also have cooled seats, which are very nice. You can have them so they automatically turn on when you turn the car on, if it's pretty hot in the car or pretty cold in the car. And as it warms up or cools down, it will turn those seats off, which is really nice. Another thing I forgot to mention is the heated steering wheel, which that button is located here on the steering wheel. This is all of your cruise control stuff, but that heated steering wheel will roast your little hands. So you got to be careful with it, but it's nice in the wintertime for sure. So it's actually tri-zone climate control. So you have one for the passenger, one for the driver, and then if you hit this rear climate button, it will pop up on the screen for the rear, so you can control all of that. And there's another screen in the back where you can control it from the rear as well. All right, so as far as the center stack, that's mostly it. You can see all of our stuff that we kind of keep here in the center. There's like a kind of well here at the bottom of this well, under all of this stuff that we keep in here. There is a wireless charging pad if you absolutely need it. There are 2 cup holders here. There are 2 cup holders in the back of the console, which is very nice. And then this little tray in the console, which is nice to set your phone or something you don't really want rolling around while you're on the road. Another interesting thing about this console is it actually slides back and forth. So if you move up to these buttons here on the ceiling, you'll see this little button with the arrows forward and back. If I press that back, that will slide back. And there's a nice little drawer here that you can pop out, but I'm not going to pop it out because I don't think YouTube wants to see what I keep in there. So we will just slide that back. In addition, up on the top here, you have your controls for the panoramic sunroof, which you can see stretches into the back seats. So that will tilt and slide. This is your shade for the sunroof that you can open and close. This will control putting down the 3rd row seats. So you can actually do that from all the way up here, which is nice. Garage door opener. And then this is really nice. This is how you open the tailgate, and you can actually set it to only open 3/4 of the way if you're in a low garage, or turn it to off so that it won't open at all, which is actually kind of handy. If you have a lower garage and you can't open it all the way up, it's nice to have that 3/4 and not have to worry about it. The mirror, quick note here, there is a little flipper right here that you can flip the camera mirror on. So that's just looking at the rear view camera through that mirror. It is pretty useful, especially if you have lots of people or lots of stuff stuffed in the back and you can't see out the rear window. You could just flip that on and bypass all of that. Sorry, I'm trying to move quickly because it is getting a little dark here. One thing that is missing from this panel up here is a button to turn on the dome lights. So each dome light will turn on individually if you hit them, but if you want all of the dome lights to come on in the car, you have to open the door, and it just doesn't make sense. Sometimes my kids are in the back seat, they need to see, they're reading a book or whatever, it's dark, and I'm forced to reach my hand back here and try to reach and hit that light right there. And then my other daughter over there, there's no chance that she's getting her light on. uh, Really kind of a miss there. I don't know how you can't turn on all the dome lights with a button, but you should be able to. Okay, let's hop into the back seat here and I will show you just how much room this has in the back. So our family has two pretty large car seats, one rear facing and one forward facing, so you can kind of see both here. This is my driver's seating position. So there's actually a lot of room here, and I'll crawl back here in a second and show you. But this is about how much you're working with a forward facing large car seat. And of course, we had to get the car seats that match the actual seats so they look nice and integrated. One tip here is when you're positioning the seat for the forward facing one, I like to keep it slid as far back as possible, not only to give my daughter leg room, but to give anybody else who's getting into the third row room to get in front. These little levers down here, what you move the seat with, this will fold it, this will slide it. If you slide it like an inch or two forward, then the back third row can still go up and down with this seat in place. So if you have it slid all the way back, it gets hung up on the second row seat when you're trying to put that third row up. So it's useful to move it forward a couple clicks. So I'm not going to sit in the back seat because it is large and you will have lots of leg room. I don't really need to demonstrate that, but I will show you what it looks like to crawl into the third row as an adult. As you can see, plenty of room to move around in here. You can crawl around even as a 6 foot tall adult. On my way to the back here, I'm going to stop by and just mention the fuel door, push to pop open. You see you have a capless filler for your diesel exhaust only, and then you have good old Blue Def. We don't have time to get into that in this video. So one really nice feature that this car has, and a lot of cars do, but you wouldn't really think about it until you have it, and then you'll miss it when it's gone. If your hands are full carrying, let's say, your two children or some groceries or heavy bags or something, and you can't reach down to grab that handle to open the tailgate, you see the little light on the ground down there. You just wave your foot underneath it with the keys in your pocket, and the tailgate will open for you hands-free. I use this feature so often, I rarely ever even touch the tailgate. It is such a nice thing to have, so you could just take your kids and throw them in the car and not have to worry about it. There is quite a lot of room behind the third row, and of course they make the Yukon XL, which has even more room. You can see I'm a poor man and I could not afford WeatherTech floor mats, so I just have a beach towel here to stop the carpet from getting dirty. But the second and third row seats actually fold down with these buttons right here. So this is to fold your second row. This will automatically fold down the third row. This is a really nice feature to have. And you see how it slid right past the second row, like I mentioned earlier, because that seat is well positioned. If it's too far back, it'll get a little hung up when trying to go down or come up. So with the third row down, you really have just so much space back here. We have loaded this thing down with many, many things for long road trips and always have room left over. We have yet to fill it completely. Another nice thing that I would suggest to have here is this little caddy. Amazon, like, I don't know, 20 bucks. It's just nice because you can kind of move it around. So if you want to put the third row up, you just slide it around, and all the stuff that you keep in the back of your trunk isn't just rolling around everywhere. We keep stuff like the diaper bag, the little toddler potty, a couple of other emergency items in there too, just in case. I also have a little Velcro first aid kit that you see says VW because it was out of my wife's old VW Atlas, but it's Velcro, so when you put the seat up, it just hangs there on the seat, and it's always good to keep a little first aid. So looking under my WeatherTech floor mats here, you can see there's a little handle that you could just pull up. There's actually some storage under here. It's really only about 4 inches deep, so you can't store a lot in here, but you can see I have my tow strap, my triangle, my flashlight, some blankets, and my jumper cables. It's just a nice little added storage area to put some of those things you're not often going to be touching, but will be nice to have if you ever really need them. Another thing to note while I pop up this seat back here is we do put adults in the third row pretty often. Super tall adults might not be the most comfortable, but an average sized adult really can sit back there, even two, maybe three at a time, and not be super uncomfortable. The third row actually has these little armrests on the side, and they are padded, which is very unusual. The rest of this is plastic, but there is a little elbow pad there, cup holders, and USB-C charging. So taking a quick look at the other side here with the rear facing car seat, you can see it really butts into that room a lot. So we used this void here where no one can really get in and out to store all of the toys. On the passenger side here, not really much to speak of. We do have the glove box, which we just like to keep things like paper towels and other things in there. There are these little pockets here on the side that are kind of nice to just shove stuff in. You also have a couple pockets on the door to keep stuff in. This is actually a little pocket, not just a handle, so that's nice. Lots of places to kind of store stuff. My wife and I have family that's a little far away, so long trips, I mean, really, this is the ideal spot to be. Real quick, everyone, we're back here in the garage, and I just wanted to show this in a bit darker of an atmosphere. When you unlock the car at night, all of the puddle lights come on, and this car lights up like a Christmas tree. It has really bright lights that shine on the back so you can see. It has an LED light strip that runs underneath the running boards, so it illuminates the ground to see where the doors are. It has puddle lights up underneath the mirrors that shine down so you can see. I mean, if you walk up to this car at night, it is bright. You can see this is really good for those who might not feel safe when getting in the car at night, and it just kind of illuminates the area around them. It also just makes it really easy to see. All of the interior lights come on as well when you walk up to the vehicle with your keys in your pocket. Really nice lighting package on this Denali. So that's what a lived-in 2022 Yukon Denali Duramax looks like inside and out. In other ownership terms of this vehicle, one thing to note is you do have to change your fuel filter every other oil change because of that diesel motor, and that can be a little bit more expensive than a basic oil change. But other than that, it's been really reliable. I've had this vehicle in snow. It does great in snow, really rainy days, never had any issues. It feels safe, it feels solid, it feels comfortable on the road. I've done the driving review already, you know that. This is probably, of all the vehicles that I've owned, which I think I've counted about 10 or 12 now, this is the nicest one I've ever owned. It's obviously the most expensive, but it really was a good deal. The diesel powertrain where you get that fuel economy, you get that highway composure, and the MagneRide suspension that just kind of lulls over bumps and really is just a nice family toter. It also tows really well because of the torque. You know, I always say people buy horsepower, but they drive torque, because the torque is really what gets you started, gets you off that line, gets you that acceleration, pulls that boat up the boat ramp, and just leads for an overall better driving experience. The headlights are bright, as you can see. It's starting to get dark, and they make it very easy to see on the road. It feels comfortable driving in the day, night, adverse weather conditions. I really am really happy with this vehicle. Yes, they're very expensive, but in my opinion, this was worth every penny. If you have any more questions about this vehicle or any other vehicle for that matter, maybe you're searching for something and you've come across this video, like, subscribe, send me a message. I'll do the best I can to answer, and I will see you next time.